Welcome to Live Action Star Wars. I'm Ralph,
I'm James.
and today we are discussing the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian.
Or are we talking about The Mandalorian, Chapter 17? I'm back, baby.
Is it what would you call this? What would you call this? A front door pilot?
Yeah, well, I was like, I mean, it's not Backdoor Pilot, but it's like the show already exists, but this is an episode of The Mandalorian in a different show.
Yeah,
It's yeah. I mean, it now explains why it's 7 episodes, not 8, not 6. It's an odd, weird number, but it's because one of them is not an episode of Boba Fett.
Guess so. Yeah, it was odd. It was
Yeah.
odd. All right.
It's a surprise.
Yeah. Before we get to that, let's go over to the chat because we have people that are nice enough to join us.
Yeah.
Today live. Fetz is here. Hey, look, everyone, it's Mando. Scott D is here. Scott, thanks for joining us. Yeah, this episode should be called Meanwhile. So there you go. Mandalorian Chapter 17.
Meanwhile.
Sarah's here.
Morning.
Book of Boba Fett, not starring Boba Fett.
Yep.
I wrote Boba Fett, where?
Exactly the right quote for this episode.
And Stevie is here.
Hey, Stevie.
She usually listens to the conversations
just one-sided
from the other room, but we won't. We'll just say that's what she's doing now, and that she's not watching this show while at work.
This is at work downstairs.
Bryce Dallas Howard killed it.
Yeah,
agreed.
I agree. Completely agree. Whether you like it as an episode of the Book of Boba Fett or not, it was brilliantly directed. I think it was. The way I've been sort of describing it is this was one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
For better and for worse.
I like that this was her episode.
Yeah,
because she's done season 1 episode, she's done a season 2 episode, and both are really good. Or one's pretty good, one's really good.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
So it's good to have somebody that sort of is familiar with the character and familiar with doing this.
Mm-hmm. And is familiar with, because of her episode, her season 2 episode, is familiar with like some of the Mandalore lore stuff. Some of that, like, yeah, the Mandalore.
Right.
So there was more of that in this episode. We got quite a lot of that. And
right.
Last week we asked what you thought of the episode, and I'm gonna just take a stab at what you think of this week's episode.
Well, I'm wondering if you read my tweet at Casino Skunk.
I saw it. What was it? What was the tweet?
I said this week's Book of Boba Fett wasn't half bad, but
tune in to find out which half. Yeah.
I mean, that was pure. Just
exactly. It's Twitter fun. Yeah. It's hey, come watch the show. I think that you enjoyed the Tatooine stuff immensely and didn't really care for the Mandalorian stuff.
Right. 100%. Because I'm not. I mean, one of the reasons why this show is live action Star Wars is because I have watched the animated series once. Mm-hmm. I'm not the biggest fan. It's not my cup of tea.
And Clone Wars especially wasn't your jam, was it? Yeah.
So I came to Clone Wars late. Trilogy.
Yeah.
And so live action Star Wars is my thing. Mm-hmm. So like all of this stuff just reminded me of Clone Wars, which is fine, but it just Clone Wars feels less like Star Wars and more like a Lord of the Rings or a Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And I like more sci-fi than fantasy. I know that Star Wars is a mixture of both, but I lean more towards the sci-fi than the fantasy.
Sci-fi
this
of course
always feels so fantasy when you get into the different houses and the different. It's a bit daunting.
It's crazy though, isn't it? Because before we knew anything about the Mandalorian, that was one of the things that was being talked about, and that what everyone suspected before we saw that first image of him walking through the street. Like a lot of the speculation was, okay, cool, it's called the Mandalorian. Are we going to be following this one character, but is it going to be an almost Game of Thrones-y type show with the different houses and the lore of Mandalore and things like that? And It's like they took so long to build to that, but they're getting there with things like we're getting a lot more about like Bo-Katan and House Vizsla, and it is all that stuff that Dave built up, and then Jon Favreau was involved with right from the get-go. Like he was there, and he's like, you can tell that he latched onto his character in the Clone Wars. Well, that was pre-Vizsla, wasn't it?
Yes, pre-Vizsla, and that's like the one thing I remember.
Yeah,
was he was that character, and the way it sounds like is he is a direct descendant of this other
absolutely
Vizsla in this episode.
So that's all of that stuff.
It's
I think so. This guy Paz Vizsla, who we see in Mandalorian and now in Boba Fett, in like those first couple of episodes of Mandalorian, it sounded like Jon Favreau. I was like, okay, cool. It's a Vizsla character. There's Favreau. Like, cool. That's great. This one, it definitely didn't sound as much like him, but on a second watch, I was like, okay, yeah, it's a bit more distorted, but it's still him. I'm pretty sure. But they don't credit. There's a stand-in or like a stunt double for that character listed in the credits, but not Favreau. I don't think they take credits when they pop up in the show. Just kind of cute.
Yeah, but they did have over Jon Favreau's credits for writing and producing had that character's production art.
Yeah, so exactly. It's him.
It's his
character anyway, whether or not it's him. In the same way you could say with Pedro, like whether or not Pedro was in the suit at all for this episode is like, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't. But he was there, he did the voiceover, it's still his character, so he still gets the credit.
I watching this episode the whole time, I kept thinking of former guest of the show, Pete the Retailer. Because I know he's not into the fantasy stuff. I know he's not into every Star Wars thing having a lightsaber. And this whole first half is like that. It's all of that stuff. But the second half is all stuff to butter him back up with Rodians and Treadwell. And
it's all that good stuff. It's classic.
What's great too is on their Mandalorian show last week on the Star Wars Minute, Pete the Retailer mentioned something about not ever seeing a Womp Rat in live action Star Wars. And I took that clip just because he said live action Star Wars and made it off like it was going to be a plug. And then I told him, I said, we promise next week we'll put Womp Rats.
We'll do what we can, like, to get one in, And then we paid off
this week. It's so weird.
We pay when we make a promise, be it a joke or an episode that references something, we'll pay it off. We'll show you the Tushy Station before they'll put it in a show, and then things like that. So if you've got any deep Star Wars lore requests.
That's great.
Hit us up on Twitter and we'll see what we can do.
Scott D brings up the Armorer. He liked the video while the Armorer was talking about the destruction of the planet. What is it? The Night of a Thousand Tears?
Yeah, something like that. The Terminator. It was absolutely the Terminator. When you see the KX series droids.
Yeah, like K2SO.
Yeah, K2 like droids or whatever they are. And the
TIE bombers.
The TIE bombers, but also like the TIE bombers coming over with like the HKs from Terminator. And all of that, like it felt apocalyptic. It was very cool to see. And the first time that we've seen Mandalore in live action, like with the Dome City and things like that. Like we've heard about it. We've heard that it's sort of a desolate wasteland, but that's the first time we've actually seen it.
Tommy the Duck is trying so hard to like the Clone Wars. It's a completely different beast than Star Wars. And I think that's one of the things with Star Wars television that's different than the films is you have time to go over this stuff. In the original Star Wars 1977, Obi-Wan brings up the Clone Wars in passing. It's a thing that was just mentioned. It shows kind of what's in that past. And now with this television format, you can explore it more. For me, this whole time, I've been wanting a Flash Gordon serial. I'm a huge fan of the Flash Gordon series, where it's just good versus evil, and then allies and punching. Kind of what I want, but there's so much more going on with this.
Well, that's the thing with the Clone Wars. There are some episodes where it is exactly that, and there are others where it's Game of Thrones, like in the Star Wars universe. They go deep lore. It's a weird beast, and I think the Clone Wars, it's not for everyone. I don't think it needs to be for everyone.
Yeah.
When they start tying this stuff into the live action, which is definitely pushed to everyone. Or everyone that liked the movies, it's like you can embrace it, and I feel like they are walking that fine line at the moment more than they ever have before, where it's, do you need that? Do you need the stuff from the Clone Wars to enjoy this, or can you enjoy this without that? Do they do enough? I mean, there's a big old info dump.
Ken brought it up last week when we were talking about Captain Rex, and he's like, are you really going to bring in a character that's that casual fans of the Book of Boba Fett won't understand? Like, people who are just coming in and watching your kind of normal, just casual viewers. This kind of, if you can have this stuff, you can have Captain Rex.
Yeah, you can get it. I think that's kind of what they've proved all along. It's like, if you can throw in things and it works for people that aren't like us, who watch everything and absorbed everything, whether we like it all or not, like if you can get those people in and they enjoy the show on its own merits, perfect.
And this episode had dialogue sort of giving you the Cliff Notes version of the Darksaber and what it does, and
more than Mandalorian did.
Yeah. Question.
Go for it.
About this fighting the saber. Instead of fighting the saber, fighting the guy. I thought visually it looked cool. Yeah. The way he was struggling, it literally looked like the saber was hard to wield.
Yeah.
Yes. Looked cool. Okay. Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
Did he figure it out? I mean, it should be something. How long did he have it for?
Exactly.
He might have figured it out. Yeah. So
who knows? But then it's also a case of like how many people in Rebels used it over the years? Like, we had Maul, Sabine, Kanan, Ezra. I think they all at some point had taken a swing with it. And some of those guys are Jedi and they're used to it, but I don't know. Sabine just being able to pick it up straight away.
They're also steep into the Mandalore history and know about the dark saber.
Yeah, I guess.
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Whereas he's just getting this object for the first time.
And I mean, he didn't know about anything. Like, I mean, really, like, Din is kind of a dummy in the same way that Boba Fett's kind of a dummy. Like, he is kind of a dummy when it comes to even his own people's lore and history.
Yeah.
Like, he's in a cult. He was raised in a cult.
Yeah. Because I mean, what's great is when they're talking about this and him removing his helmet and stuff, it definitely reminded me of the season 2 of Mandalorian episode that Bryce Dallas Howard directed with Bo-Katan and her ideals and what she does. And it was effective on that level. I think what I liked the most in the first half was post lightsaber battle, like just that little moment where she's talking about him. Have you ever taken your mask off?
Yeah.
And what's great is it wasn't like, oh, you took your mask off, give me the saber, it doesn't belong to you. She let him have it. So I was like, oh, cool. So
you still want it.
To be some big old thing. Yeah. So that I like that.
It's weird, isn't it? It's almost, it felt to me that like they were going through the motions and she was expecting him to give the same answer that he gave last time she asked him, where it's like, nope, I'm good. And I think at that point she was ready to be like, cool, I declare you Mandalore, basically. Like, you're our leader. But because he said that, she almost sent him on his way with his next mission to go and redeem himself in the minds of Mandalore. When both of them know that presumably he's going to be unable to do that. At least he's like, I'm not going to go do that. That's some bullshit. I need to go get a new ship.
What I liked about this, the first part. So we have this Elysium sort of city. It's a ring.
I love a ring world.
We've seen it in like Halo.
Larry Niven's Ring World novel. Like it's a classic style sci-fi sort of thing, and I never dislike them. I'm always a fan of a ring world.
I'm the same. But it's weird seeing it in Star Wars, but I thought it looked really cool. Some of the coolest stuff in there was, for me, like the elevator ride.
I was gonna bring this up. Absolutely, it was a one.
Yes, and what's great about that is, if you're working in the volume,
it's exactly
you can do that. You can do that, and it's so great watching him walk in on one floor and then get out on the next floor. It's It's such a
It's a cheap
such an
trick.
easy thing.
It's such a cheap
Yeah.
trick. It's so easy to do with the volume. Like, I mean, people have been doing it with green and blue screens for years, but with the volume, it's all that much more immersive. And you watch it and you're like, yeah, okay, he's going up and down. Wow, did they build 2 sets? Like, no, of course they didn't. It's the volume.
Or
They
they
built
go, or you'll see like practical where they go into an elevator set, the doors close. You can tell that they either swivel
rotate.
it to a
Yeah,
different set or something and then open the doors. So doing it this way, I was like, this is just fun.
yeah.
I think that was my
It's
favorite part of this
it's
opening.
me too. I absolutely love it, and it's kind of unnecessary. It doesn't really add anything, but it has that whole thing where it's like he gets in the elevator, he rides up, he gets the awkward look from the new alien species, not one that I recognized.
Right.
And then the fact that it goes around that sort of gangster table with the Ishitib there one time, and then he's back out by the end of that rotation around that table, he's back on the move. And it just gives some momentum to the scene where what would have been a stop, slow discussion, negotiation, whatever, it creates that momentum because the camera is always moving. And then it's I loved it. I thought that was one of the best shots of the episode.
I didn't even realize there wasn't any cuts during, like, I know she brought the camera around the table, but it never occurred to me that that shot started downstairs.
Yeah, it started on a completely
So
different floor. Like, I can't place exactly where it started, but it's like I
Right.
think it's just before he gets into the elevator when he's walking into
Yeah,
the
see,
elevator.
that's
And then
worth
it
a
ends
second
as he
watch.
gets out, and then he walks off camera because obviously that's when they need another bit of practical that isn't the elevator, which is the focal point.
Right.
It's great. It's a great bit of filmmaking. She killed it.
Trying to think if there's anything else I need to talk about this first off. Oh, it looks like, I'm assuming, first of all, the way she tied the bundle for Grogu looks like Grogu.
Super
Like,
cute.
come on, that's great. And so when he's holding it in the transport, you know exactly what he's thinking about. It's that bit of business. Whoever came up with that is brilliant.
It's tidy. It's nice. It's
looks like she made a Beskar
chainmail.
I'm assuming chainmail.
Yeah, it definitely looks like chainmail to me. It's gonna be armor because she like won't make anything that isn't armor. Cool, like that. And yeah, the fact that it's
such a tiny bundle too.
It doesn't need to be
probably
big.
Grow out of it.
Yeah,
in probably like 50 years.
Yeah, but you know, kids these days, they're growing so fast. I was when she started making something, I was expecting a little helmet with ear holes. But I think chainmail, having him in chainmail, even if he like gets some robes, he can have that chainmail on underneath.
Yeah.
Do you think there was any leftover for a little ball for him to play with a little ball?
That's what I kind of thought he was gonna make.
Yeah.
Did he? He never ended up with that ball. That ball exploded, right?
No, I think he still had the ball after the explosion.
Oh yeah, because he used it.
Yeah, he used it basically as a comfort blanket when he was giving him off to Luke, I think.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I think yeah.
But I know
that's
it was around.
Maybe Grogu left with the
captured.
ball. Maybe Grogu has the ball still.
Maybe.
Possibly. He definitely didn't give it up to the Rex droid when he was putting all his stuff in the weapons locker.
Right.
Right. Fun sort of classic action movie action guy going through a metal detector scene of taking out all of his armaments. The rope was interesting though. His lasso that he's got built into his gauntlet. I was like, couldn't get that through. Maybe.
I don't know.
Counts as a weapon.
Literally
apparently.
anything's a weapon. Yeah.
Yeah.
His helmet could be a weapon.
Exactly.
Do you have anything else as far as the first half goes?
The fact that the other Mandalorians, they know about Bo-Katan, they're throwing shade on her rule is interesting to me. It's all the lore of Mandalorian stuff. We get a lot more of it, and it's stuff that we kind of had we'd thought with them being children of the Watch, their Death Watch, they were on Concordia. That's how they avoided the Purge, things like that. It's all the stuff that we sort of assumed based on what we knew about like regular, quote unquote, regular Mandalorians, and then other Mandalorians. Yeah, Scott D, very sad to see the spear melted down. I was too. I like that spear, but it works in lore ways.
You know, I wanted it to be turned into a samurai sword.
Yeah.
And then he got a Darksaber, and so that became.
What did you think about him cutting his own leg in that opening thing? That opening fight.
It was fine because we
Mhm.
learned that he doesn't know how to wield the thing.
I thought it was really cool, and it was like it's the first time that we've seen someone have some self-inflicted damage from essentially from a lightsaber, and it's like, yeah, these things are dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't just go playing with them if you don't know what you're doing with them.
They can cut through blast doors.
Mm-hmm. And carcasses very easily. I like the meatpacking. I like the meatpacking gangster.
Yeah, it's funny that the original
Tatooineans.
concept had like bantha
Banthas.
heads.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And I'm sure somewhere along the way, Bryce Dallas Howard was probably like, "That's too much."
Or they just couldn't manage it in production. It's easier to get a carcass of anything else.
Like on a kid's show, having a bunch of heads hanging on
something that we just fell in love with last week.
Right.
But yeah, the music mashup as we get the title card of like the Return of the Mandalorian, mashing up the two themes, I thought was done really, really well. You got to assume
like the music in the episode, like the music in the at the table, on the Ring World, and sort of everyone's out in the lobby having drinks and stuff. Really like that music.
Yep, it's cool. It was nice. It looked like a cool club.
Yeah.
I'd have a cocktail there.
Let's head to Tatooine. First of all, the Star Wars guy is here.
Hey, Star Wars guy. Happy to see you back.
It says those Womp Rats were about the size of a thermal exhaust port.
About right. Yeah.
And yeah, this is apparently
not much bigger than 2 meters.
This would be the first time we've seen a Womp Rat in live action Star Wars.
Yeah.
Adam says so much episode 1 love in this episode. Is it weird that now we're getting episode 1 nostalgia?
It's the generational thing, isn't it? Like there's so many people I've seen today on Twitter that old. Yeah, same. It's the whole look how old you've become. And that's where we're at. And it is like poetry. It comes back around. And I love that there are people that love episode 1 and are there because I've come around on it. I enjoy it more these days than I used to for maybe the last sort of 20 years.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff in there. And the biggest thing, something that we've, I think, both always agreed that is one of the best bits of episode 1 is the Naboo N1 Starfighter.
It's probably my 3rd favorite Star Wars vehicle.
It's huge.
I love it.
It's real pretty.
I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I wanted it to stay yellow so bad.
There's highlights.
There's a
little bit of highlights. That's just enough so that when you have the inevitable Lego set, like that, you can have like 1 or 2 yellow bricks on the top there. Yeah. It reminds me of the Falcon. It reminds me a lot of the Falcon, where like when Lando had it, it was all clean and crisp and had like the bright blues pop in. And now with Han's got it, it's more like a hot rod. It's more janky. There's still some color on there. You can see where there used to be some nice colors, but now it's been retrofitted. It's got aftermarket parts attached to it here, there, and everywhere.
Before she took off the tarp, I thought it was like Grievous's ship.
I did too. So we'd heard rumors. There'd been some rumors about it being an N1, but I was trying to not hype myself up for it. But under the top, it certainly looked like the shape of Grievous's ship to me. And that being all chrome already, I was like, oh, that would fit the character.
Yeah. Those Starfighters.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one? Overall, like, what do you think of his modded out one?
Not colorful enough. That's it. No, it's
it might be when he gets to Tatooine and the mods have their way with it.
Yeah, no, it looked awesome when it was flying around above Mos Eisley. Like some of those shots look really cool.
So cool. I love seeing ships like that in atmosphere.
Yeah. And then Beggars Canyon. So Beggars Canyon is the canyon from the pod race.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I think they mention it in the commentary of the pod race at some point. It's like, I'm pretty sure they mention it being Beggars Canyon at some point.
now
At least a portion of the race goes through Beggars Canyon.
This thing's hauling ass, and he ends
Yeah.
up pretty quickly from Mos Eisley to the Buta Eve Classic course.
Or that portion of it. I think that portion of...
Yeah.
And also, I mean, we see the speed that this thing does. Like, it's definitely a lot faster than a pod racer.
That sequence...
Something that I noticed when he's in the canyon is that, like, it's been 40 years since episode 1, thereabouts, something like that. And they never replaced the barrier that Anakin goes through on that service ramp. That it's still broken.
Right. They wouldn't have fixed that for subsequent Bunta classics?
Yeah, you'd think that they'd still be doing some more races. Yeah.
No big deal. No big deal. I'm not gonna say
it was just something that I noticed. I'm not worried about it. It's just something that I noticed. I thought was a little cute detail. I'm sure that it'll come up in the gallery episode where they're like, hey, look, remember when Anakin flew through this? It's still broken. It's the sort of thing that they would love.
Yeah. Seeing the Womp Rat just laying on a rock in Beggars Canyon leads me to believe that they're not really a moving target.
No, Luke was just bragging.
He was just bullseyeing him. He was just...
he wasn't even moving. He was just like hovering his T-16 and just taking
It's still impressive.
shots.
They're not much bigger than 2 meters, so... But, I mean... It was just really funny seeing it just laying on a rock.
Yeah, it looks like it was just sunbathing.
Yeah. Does it change anything about Luke's dialogue? No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't want to. But it made me think about it being a retcon as far as what Luke says and how maybe it's not as impressive.
We're just gonna throw shade on Luke like the armor was throwing shade on Bo-Katan.
So for the next 10 minutes, I would like to discuss the chicken dragon.
Oh, the chicken dragon, not Pelly dating a Jawa.
Well, I mean, we've got some time here.
We've got plenty of time.
We got some time here. I love the chicken dragon. I thought it was so perfectly stupid.
Yep.
It was like there's stuff in Star Wars. It's just like, that is so silly and ridiculous. Like, it's essentially like when you say, "Oh, what is this? A space screwdriver, or what is this? A
hydro spanner?
It's a space diner."
Yeah.
This was literally a space chicken, and it made the chicken sound. But
it's a rooster.
Matthew Wood altered it enough to be a dragon sound, and
it was great.
It like happens during a transition, and so it happened. The chicken sound happens before you realize what you're seeing. And I was just like, okay, all right. I loved it. With it.
I thought it was so cool. It was a great design. It's the sort of thing that if they'd scaled that thing up more, it would look like a threatening creature, but it was the perfect scale where it was like, okay, it's still a big bird, but it's like, it's not quite as small as a rooster would be, but it's cool. You can imagine those things annoying you when you're trying to have a lion in Mos Eisley.
If George Lucas put that in episode 2, people would point it out as being
dumb.
Stupid,
or in the special editions or something. Like, it's the sort of thing that, like the Scurriers. When we first started seeing Scurriers in the special edition, like, and everyone hated them because it's like, well, why are they there? And now they're in every episode of this show
and getting name dropped.
Yeah, being eaten.
Anyway, it's something we've never seen. It's out of nowhere. It's a silly joke that's like,
but a great design for a creature.
And it's a trope you've seen in like old timey movies to signify it's the next morning,
especially westerns, which it's always been that thing. It's always been the reference point.
I loved it. I thought it was so good. Let's talk about this dating a Jawa.
Okay. We'll jump.
Wait, did you have more about the chicken dragon?
Not about the chicken dragon. So Pelly dated a Jawa for a while.
Right.
That was an improv, right? That had to be Amy Sedaris improving, at least on the first time that it came up, and then they wrote it in?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. I think Favreau's worked with her a bunch
Mm-hmm.
and they know each other. And I feel like he was having fun with her dialogue, especially in this one. She had so much techno babble. And I'm like, how is she reciting all of this shit?
Exactly. It's just nonsense techno babble. And both of them were going back and forth with each other with it. And it worked because she didn't break. She wasn't winking at the camera too much, but it wasn't so over the top that it was like, okay, these are just nonsense words. It all sounded like it could be plausible Star Wars bullshit, but it's, yeah.
So last week or 2 weeks ago, recently, Disney posted some production photos for the Book of Boba Fett. I keep forgetting this is the Book of Boba Fett. And in it was a shot of two Jawas pointing up. I don't know if you saw that picture. And you could see tuft of hairs coming out of their sleeves.
Yep.
And I don't know if I've ever noticed the Jawas being hairy.
No.
They definitely had the hair coming out of the sleeves in this episode. And she mentions that they're hairy.
They're very furry, yeah. Fett's here is all for Star Wars interspecies erotica. I mean, crack on. If you want to write that fic, you can do it, Fetz. We'll read it on the show.
Live action after dark.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, cool. Date whoever you want to date.
You don't think a Ronto and a Bantha ever hooked up?
Maybe, but I mean, two sentient species like definitely could date. You know. Yeah. Who didn't want to date Kit Fisto?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your species.
I want to see.
In fact, we've seen interspecies. We've seen interspecies romance in Star Wars already, and there's a child born of it in Rebels. Kanan and Hera as a human and Twi'lek, and they have a kid, so you know it clearly works.
All right. Did you hear that news that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is
she's in Ahsoka? Yeah, I think that's cool. I like her as an actress.
Yeah,
it's interesting that both her and Ewan McGregor are now going to be in shows.
Yeah,
just keeping it in the household.
Yeah, and then if she's someone like Hera,
I don't know if I like her for Hera.
She could be on both shows.
She could. She could definitely. I don't know if I like her for Hera, but I do like her in the Star Wars universe.
Right. I was thinking Imperial Officer.
Yeah, I think that works.
The sort of Kate Blanchett looking one from Rebels.
Yeah. Her name's escaping me, but I know exactly who you mean. She's got that Kate Blanchett haircut.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at the chat. There's so many comments going by.
This is great, guys. Like we are reading everything, but we might not.
Yeah.
Things might get missed.
And what's great, I just noticed this about YouTube. When you go back and watch this episode after we've done the live version, all these comments stay there. Yeah. So anything you put here is going to stay there forever. So
know that.
That's copy and paste your slash fiction.
Yeah, put it in there.
And everyone can read it right now.
While we're still sort of talking about the N1, the turning the droid compartment into a little seat for Grogu. Love to see it.
Yeah, she didn't say that's what it was for. But
no, I mean, but also, could be good for bringing in bounties.
Yeah.
Like he could put someone else in there, but I mean, I don't know what they're doing leg space wise, but it's definitely for Grogu. Let's be honest.
I love that. It reminds me of the turret from the Macquarie Y-wing designs.
The one on the back.
Yeah, they had the bubble turret.
Yeah.
It'll be funny to see someone's head sticking out of there. Grogu, yeah, I can see Grogu in there.
It's definitely going to be for Grogu. It's got to be. And it, like, all of this and everything that is said at the end of the episode as well, it's like, I don't think we're going to waste any time getting back to Grogu in season 3 of The Mandalorian. I feel like this was the episode that needed to happen before we get back to Grogu. So that when season 3 starts up, it's like, bang, there he is. He's just straight back to him.
Yeah. Speaking of Grogu, last time we left him, he left with Luke. A CG Luke.
Yep.
And there was a stand-in.
It was a stand-in whose
There's a
name
body double.
Max Lloyd Jones.
Right, who we see in this episode of the Book of Boba Fett as Lieutenant somebody or something.
It has, yeah.
I had the credits.
New Republic Lieutenant.
Right. He hold on, keep talking.
Okay, he's flying alongside. He's the new wingmate of like the third now, I think, wingmate of Paul Sun-Young Lee, who is Captain Carson Teva or Teva, who we saw in season 2, I believe, of Mandalorian. Maybe we saw him in season 1. I don't think we did. I think in season 1 we only saw the directors. So we saw like Trapper Wolf or whatever his name was. Right. And the other 2 directors. But yeah, we saw Paul Sun-Young Lee, who's Upper from Kim's Convenience, and he's amazing. And he's going to be playing Uncle Iroh in the probably terrible live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. But he's great. I love that actor. He's the best. And like knowing that he's such a Star Wars fan and that he builds his own costumes and stuff just for fun, and that's how he got in this show, helps. Rangers of the New Republic as a show might be dead. Right. Or they might be, I think what's more likely is they're putting it on indefinite hold while they rework it to a completely different show than it was gonna be. For the better. And if you want to have him as the lead and have it be him as the focus, great. I'm all for it.
Lieutenant Reed.
Is that the character's name?
Matt Lloyd Jones. Yeah. I did a bunch of screenshots because we had a little bit more time today before the show started up. And so I did a bunch of screenshots and I'm like, okay, I'm going to refer to screenshots if I need to. And then it's just everything went sideways. Literally, I've been having trouble with StreamYard and getting pictures to show up.
Oh yeah, they do come in sideways.
Right side up.
Yep.
So, but I did have that screenshot of the end credits. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's great.
It's great that they keep him in. Like, we did the same thing with Matt Lancer, didn't they, in season 1 of Mandalorian? The guy who voiced Anakin in the Clone Wars.
He kind of had a bit part and probably blew up in that transport.
Absolutely blew up. But I mean, he died. He got shot. I think he got shot and died.
But this Lieutenant Reed could show up in future stuff. I mean, he's an X-wing pilot. I was looking at his helmet. His helmets has blue and yellow.
Yeah, and it's definitely the New Republic's logo, which is like it's the Rebel insignia, but with all the stars around it and everything. Yeah, which I like to see it. It's really cool, and it's in Star Wars Squadrons. We've seen a lot of New Republic stuff because in that video game that's set around the same time as this. So I was trying to I like his X-wing. His X-wing is real pretty. It's got like a big logo on the side. They definitely feel like space cops. Yeah. Whereas Carson Teva is still flying an old Rebellion X-wing. This one is like it's a new off the line one. Yeah,
his Carson.
Yeah.
Is that his name? Yeah, I like his relationship with
Mando. Yeah.
He
knows it's him.
Your voice. He 100% knows it's him. He says, "Oh, your voice seems familiar." Like he knows, but I like that he's like.
I mean, they even look at each other through the cockpits.
Like, this guy's kind of It's like this guy's kind of doing some good stuff out here.
Yeah, he's not the worst.
I'll just let him go.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's like, look, dude, I've got to ask these questions so that it's kind of on the record because all the flight stuff's probably recorded. But I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna let you slide on this one. And it also, like, Din had a really valid excuse this time around as well. Like, they had just built the ship. It was a test flight. He wasn't evading.
Yeah.
And I kind of have a feeling that he's like, I don't really want to go and do all of this and get in with the New Republic, but I'm not opposed to working with the New Republic when I need to.
Right.
Yeah. But it is that whole sort of it's space cops, isn't it? It's like maybe not all space cops are bastards. Maybe. But yeah, we'll see. I thought that was great though, and him using the booster button to launch himself off, and then Max Lloyd Jones, what is it, Lieutenant Reed, Lieutenant Reed thinking that he jumped to hyperspace, but they didn't have a signature for it. He's like, no, that was his sublights. Like, that ship can fly. Like, that thing. Like, when we see that in action,
and she said since it's pre-Empire, it's sort of off the grid anyway.
Yeah.
So like all of this stuff, I'm like, oh man, this is like, I love what the ship can do, and I kind of like the modifications. I think the thing I hated the most about the ship, and this is...
You've muted, Ralph. Oh, no. All right. Ralph will be back shortly. I'm going to guess that Ralph really hated the engine popping out. No. Oh, interesting. It wasn't the engine. I don't know. I'm just going to talk about things that I did like. I like that it was more armored up. I think you're back.
The pointy tail.
You didn't like the pointy tail?
It looked like the uncompleted Death Star. It looked like so fragile.
It did look very fragile.
That's the only thing that bothered me.
It reminded me of the toy.
The engine was awesome.
It reminded me of the toy because the toy of the N1 had like a rubberized tail because it was pointy, and so kids would stab each other with it or something. I don't know.
God, I used to have that toy with my Rick Ollier, and it just didn't make it through the multiple moves, and so
same with me. It moved into a shed for a long time in my grandma's garden, and I think when we cleared that out, I ended up taking it to a charity shop or something and just being like, you know what, someone can get some enjoyment out of this. I've had my time with it.
I need like a cool like Eagle Moss version.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
something like
you can
that.
Kit bash together and make your own.
I could room on my shelf.
The engine was cool though. I'm glad that you liked the engine.
Yeah, Fett says I'd love to see some more dilapidated prequel ships in the new Star Wars. Yeah.
I mean, this episode of this show did such a good job of tying together prequel stuff, sequel stuff with, we're moving into the future, so you're going to get it. And you've got like things like the New Republic, original trilogy, video games. I don't know if you played Jedi Fallen Order, but the new droid,
the droid, the BD.
Yeah, BD. I mean, it's BD1 in the video game, but the BD series droid, just as cute as ever, maybe even cuter in this with his little happy taps. Love that precious little droid. We have to protect it with everything we have. And that was the first thing that we saw at Pelly's. We saw that even before Pelly.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it was every time there was a Scurrier on screen or the BD was on screen, he was looking around for it. And he was just always like a fraction too late. It felt very sort of Punch and Judy. It was great. And it looked amazing. Like, as I assume a completely CG model, it looks so good.
We're gonna just assume it's CG, but then they're gonna show us in Disney Gallery that
absolutely they had it and it was running around.
One guy on wires moving the legs and the other moving the...
Well, one of the legs was actually like, this is clearly a damaged one because it's kind of bent backwards. He's kind of
like a wounded
leg.
Bird.
Yeah, but it was so good. It worked so well. I think it's just that series of droids are a little bit rambunctious though. They're little scamps because he's wasn't pointing the light in the right place. He was sort of getting bored.
Right. Adam says, come on, can you imagine Grogu with a little X-Wing or Naboo Starfighter helmet?
It'd be pretty wizard.
With the goggles.
Oh, yes.
Thoughts on Wizard? Sure. Love it.
Great. Love it. Again, James's book corner. The origins of the word wizard as a slang term.
Come on.
Maybe not the origins, but it's something that there's a character. It's one of the Young Reader books from the High Republic. And he's saying wizard, and someone else brings it up. He's like, I thought this was something that you all just said on this planet. I thought it was a colloquial thing. He's like, no. I just started saying it, and it caught on. People were saying it. It was cool. I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
It's cute because the character is similar to Anakin at that time, where it's like, this isn't something that everyone says. It's kind of a nerdy kid thing to say.
What was fun about Star Wars when I was a kid growing up, there was the bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Mandel. There's the Clone Wars. There's Out Beyond the Dune Sea. There's these references to things that it doesn't really matter. You understand them in context, and they're throwaway things. and then we don't need the origins of everything. I
We
keep
don't.
going back. I keep going back to Mushi, but hearing that they have an origins to the where Wizard came from, it's like, come on.
I loved it. I mean, I
so
agree with
nuts.
you. You tell me that. You tell me that, and I completely agree with you. Reading it on the page, I was overjoyed. I thought it was really fun.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was cool. I think like all the little visuals of the fact that he is flying a Naboo Starfighter through the pod race course. It's like, now this is pod racing.
Yeah.
So it's that, and then he does spin because it is a good trick.
The thing about the
it's all
pod
right
racing thing or Beggars Canyon reminded me of Rebel Assault. I believe the first one. Where you're training in a T-16 Skyhopper through, I don't know if it's Beggars Canyon.
Probably. They loved throwing Beggars Canyon into the 90s video games. Yeah, of course
it looks different. But just watching him fly through there and start discussing the handling, and when he says it handles as well as a gonk something or other, I was like, is that bad? And then she clears up the fact that that's great. Okay, good. Because he was going through that canyon, and I don't know how many times I hit the Beggars Canyon walls in that video game. And
all the time. Every video game.
Making me anxious.
In the pod racer game, like all the time, you just bounce off those walls. I'm pretty sure there's an episode, there's a level of Rogue Squadron, one of the Rogue Squadron games, where you're flying around on Tatooine, and you can go through Beggars Canyon and stuff there as well. And you smash into the walls. It's good stuff.
Adam says, believe it or not, Wizard appears as slang term for awesome in William Golding's Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, it definitely did. It wasn't originated in episode 1. It had been around in a few things, I think, before that. But yeah, it might have been Lord of the Flies, might have been the origin. I'm not sure.
And Tommy says, what about Sleeve of Wizard?
Yep, gotta love a wizard sleeve.
Borat.
Borat reference. The test flight, I liked it a lot. Seeing him not used to how it flies when he's flying over Mos Eisley, and he's like, oh, this thing's shaky. And she's like, yeah, because you're used to flying a gunship, not a starfighter. You have to train differently. He's used to flying basically a big truck, and now he's on a souped up super bike.
I was paying close attention to his startup sequence. And I'm pretty sure it's the same as Anakin's.
Yeah, the
button and then flip. And then it was the scurrier was in the dashboard, and I was like kind of excited to see the dashboard again.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
It's one of those dashboards that we saw plenty of in episode 1.
Yeah.
So to see
insert shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I love those, dude.
Yeah, Tommy the Duck here. It's like in Star Wars, it's Sleeve of the Emperor.
So if you know, you know.
Yeah, of course. It's all there. Fennec shows up at the end. Our only link to.
She showed up like she reminded me of like Peter Pan. Her entrance.
It was very whimsical, like hopping down off of some boxes where she just sort of been sat, twiddling her feet, I guess, waiting for him to come back. And then she offers him the job as hired muscle. As soon as Din finds out that it's for Boba Fett, he's like, I'll do it for free. This guy's cool. We're friends. Yeah. But then he's like, but I've got to go and see I've got to go and see a little friend or something. I can't remember the exact line, but basically implying that he's going to go see Grogu first.
Okay. He'll make his big entrance.
Does he show up in the finale? Like, I guess, maybe. But that made me go, is this going to be it? Do we not see him again for the rest of this season?
I mean, we got 2 episodes?
Yeah, we've got 2 episodes left. And I feel like it's...
Oh, he won't be here next week, but he will the following?
Possibly.
I think we'll be fine with that.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But I don't know if we're going to see him at all.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't come back as muscle. And because they don't have him, that's why they have to go and get Baskin Dengar and all of our actual favorites.
And an army of stormtroopers.
Yeah, I don't know.
And Bantha and
some not snow speeders, land speeders, and all these other cool things that we want.
An army of Jawas.
Oh yeah, the furry little Jawas.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to avenge the Tusken friends. They're bringing in all the
Jawas are
Jawas.
just Ewoks.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why in the behind the scenes interview, he talked about how much fun it was working
with the Ewoks.
Yeah.
I
Tamara
think I would
Morrison was
much
still
rather
top
see.
billed.
What's that?
Tamara Morrison was still top billed in this episode, despite not being in the episode.
Show.
I mean, it is his show, like in the same way that they're always going to be. But I just thought it was quite fun.
I would be okay seeing an unmasked Jawa before seeing an unmasked Tusken. Just personal preference.
Yeah, I think so.
If they're literally just Ewoks.
Or just little furry things in cloaks, yeah. I think it was something similar to an Ewok. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like a skinnier and taller head. Let's give him a weirder shaped head. But with the glowing eyes still like really pronounced.
What if they come together and make a black chrysanthemum?
Oh, maybe. Voltron. Or maybe, like they are just on top of each other. Black chrysanthemum is just a bunch of Ewoks stood on top of each other's shoulders.
Fett says the only thing this episode was missing was beard chrysanthemum. Are you familiar with beard chrysanthemum?
Beard chrysanthemum is the best thing on the internet this last week.
If you go over to Live Action SW on Twitter or on Instagram, I photoshopped Black Chrysanthemum's face in my beard
perfectly,
and you don't notice it.
Not in the wide. Not in the, yeah, it's great.
It's creepy.
It's pretty great.
Someone's wife hates that picture.
Is it yours?
It's mine.
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
We do get another bit of mention and reference to the Book of Boba Fett with the fact that the Pikes are causing trouble on Tatooine in Mos Eisley as well as Mos Espa. I think it's Peli talks about how the Pikes, when they're coming in, they're causing trouble with their spice running and things like that because the Jawas
came on the same ship.
Yeah, I mean it's the same, definitely the same type of thing. Like everyone likes to fly commercial. I guess that's what flying casual is.
It's really nice. There wasn't a lot of, there's a lot of space. Din had the whole row to himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked the scene where he's taking all of his weapons off. He sort of keeps on checking everyone getting on board, and it's almost like, oh god damn it, they're gonna get all the best seats. So I was expecting because he'd been forced to do that and take off all of his shit, that I was kind of expecting him to be cramped in a corner, like in the back somewhere. But no, he looks pretty relaxed.
Yeah.
Quite a comfy looking bus.
I was wondering if he would put the Darksaber in there. He takes a small beat before putting it in. And I feel like if he had more reverence for it, he would have not put it in there.
Agreed. I think he doesn't realize the weight.
Oh, it's this weapon that I've done perfectly good without, and it's hard to use.
Yeah, I don't really want this thing. And even in this episode, he's like, I mean, sure, like, I know that I have to lose it, but he's like, but I'm kind of fine with losing it if I do.
Could Mary Elizabeth Winstead be Sabine?
I mean, I'd be cool with that. I think I'd prefer. Yeah, I mean, she can play young enough, I think. I'd be better with her as Sabine than as Hera, but I think they are going with a person of color for Sabine. I think they are leaning that way.
Orange.
Yeah, obviously.
Does Sabine have kind of an orange hue to her?
Kind of, and I think it's at least a hair of color.
Person.
What color's her hair going to be? Because Sabine's going to be cool. But yeah,
they'll do at least two different versions of the hair.
What else we got? Anything else that you can think of? I loved this episode as an episode of Mandalorian.
Stevie thinks that the Black Chrysanthemum reminded her of when the birds are living in Peter's beard in Family Guy. And they come out and eat the food.
If you have an entire Wookiee, if you have a Wookiee living in there, man, like you've got some issues. You need some beard shampoo.
That's good.
Good. I thought the Jawas ripping off the Pikes was really interesting. I thought that was quite fun. Because we know that the Pikes are the big problem.
Whatever she called that thing that they brought,
The
was
thing that
definitely
Leia was using to prop up in
yeah.
The bubble
course,
wrap.
'cause it's that
The
thing.
bubble wrap pole.
Yeah.
It looks sturdier
Um,
than that one. This one
yeah.
looked like it actually might prop something up.
I don't have much more to talk about the episode. There's what's fun in the last week though is you got a new tattoo.
I did get a new tattoo.
Head over to our Instagram and our Twitter.
It's
I'll make sure.
on.
You know what I'll do is I'll make
on
sure I
our.
put it
I'll
in
put
with
it.
the.
Yeah, it's on my personal Instagram, which is the same as my Twitter handle right there. You can see it on the screen. It's at J Hewlett, but I'll put it in the live action Instagram as well.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a fun
cool.
new tattoo. I like it.
Yeah.
Love Scout Troopers. Big fan of Scout Troopers.
Right. Would you get a Naboo Starfighter?
No, I don't think I would. I like them, but
like facing down.
I mean, I've got X-wings in my Rebel Alliance symbol there. It's upside down, but yeah, you can see all of that.
Cool. So next week, I'm not sure when we're going to start. Probably roughly around this time.
Next week. I would have thought so. It depends on what time and if we manage to get a guest in, which we are hoping.
Yeah, we want to have a guest because next week is the big Chapter 6 Dave Filoni directed episode.
Assuming.
Yeah,
we don't know for sure, but it's pretty likely that it's the Dave Filoni episode.
Right. Rumors of his episode on the last season of Mandalorian came true.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we thought was going to happen.
And the Bryce Dallas Howard episode was only off by one of this one. So with only 2 episodes left, it would make sense that Dave's got the penultimate. Yeah.
So we may have a guest next week, and depending on their schedule, that's when we will go.
Yep.
I'm excited to talk about it. I thought this episode was it was more than not half bad. There was a lot to enjoy in the first half. It's just it was so much of the stuff that I'm not.
It's not your jam. It's not what.
No.
Yeah. I loved it. I thought the
second
whole thing
half
was great.
The second half really was.
I think
was.
I think that's the thing with this episode. That's why it works so well and why I really haven't heard that much complaining. The only complaints that I have is because it's not an episode of this show. It's an episode of The Mandalorian. Right. And that means that yes, it's a fantastic episode of TV, of Star Wars TV, because it has everything. It has a bit for everyone. No matter what your Star Wars is, whether it's Clone Wars, it's Rebels, it's prequels, it's sequels, whatever your preference is, there's something in this episode for you.
Right.
But if you are just watching Book of Boba Fett, I'm not sure how it will play. Like I'm going to watch it again later on with Liz, and she's not watched all of Mandalorian, but she's watched all of Book of Boba Fett so far. So I'm curious to see what she thinks of this episode. I think it'll be fun. I mean, yeah, we will eventually, but not
you don't even have to show her this episode, right?
Exactly. I mean, you could theoretically, especially if we don't see Din again this season, it becomes a completely skippable episode.
So my suggestion to you, and I mean, I'm not trying to run your life or what Liz is happy with or whatever, but over the course of the next week, have her catch up on Mandalorian.
It's not Bake Off. It's not Bake Off or MasterChef, so she probably won't watch it.
How far behind is she?
She watched the first couple of episodes of Mandalorian, and then she watched the post-credits scene with Boba Fett showing up, and then she's not seen anything in between.
Okay.
So she's got 2 seasons to see.
All right. Well, I mean, she could skip it, I'd say, right?
I think so. I mean, we'll see. We'll watch. I think we'll watch this episode, and then if she's interested in any of the Mandalorian stuff, we can go back.
Okay, and I don't think anything's really spoiled.
I don't think so.
Other than he doesn't have Grogu.
She's not bothered about spoilers.
And that she's met Jedi. Or he's met Jedi.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So until then, head over again at Live Action SW on Instagram and Twitter. LiveActionStarWars.com takes you to our YouTube page if you're listening to this on the audio feed. If you're watching this on LiveActionStarWars.com on the YouTube, head over to Apple Podcast or any other podcast host that's picking up our show at LiveActionSW.com.
All but one.
And Right. And you know what?
Fuck those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Fucking Spotify. They're like the number 2 podcasting app on the planet, and they can't pick up our feed,
I'm
unlike every other podcast app.
I'm so okay with not being on there though, to be honest.
It's fine.
Especially
It's
with
fine.
everything that they do. I'm just like, no.
So before I go, I was thinking of changing my sign off.
Ooh.
Because there's something about this show, I always wanted it to be a positive thing.
Yeah.
And there's something that I've been tweeting since day one, and I don't know why
Yes.
that isn't my sign off.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you can do whatever you want. I was thinking of taking the first part, and I can hand you off the second part.
I love that. I love that because it saves me trying to think of something interesting. And this week I had nothing interesting.
But
I
I
had
love
your
I
least favorite. I had your least favorite line in all of Star Wars TV.
So this is what I'm thinking of doing. Everybody's, I'm sure, eating this up. I'm thinking we do it in 3 parts. I think you do the first part, I do the second part, and then you say punch it, and I hit the thing.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay. So, okay, let me get, okay. All right.
I don't want to mess it up. What is the first part?
Don't give in to hate.
Okay, yeah.
And then I say,
celebrate the love.
Yeah. So here it goes. This is a blind test. James did not know this was happening. I didn't think I was going to do this, but
thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks.
Celebrate the love. Nope, that's the second bit.
You did the, yeah, that's the second bit.
That's the second bit.
This is James saying. Now I forgot it. Okay,
I've got it. Don't give in to hate.
And celebrate the love.
Punch it.